Athletes are a special kind of person. They pour their soul into the sport that they love, even if it means giving up so many opportunities. As they get farther and farther into their lives, that sport becomes more and more of their career. An athletic injury in a high level athlete can result in losing the job opportunities they had. This is devastating to the mind and takes a serious toll. Sports are very mental and require you to be in the right mindset all the time. Your internal clockwork gets thrown off easily when something goes wrong. This instills a deep rooted fear of returning to the game and not being able to do what they used to do previously because of the athlete's injury. Obviously, there is a broad spectrum of athletic injuries, from something simple like a sprained ankle to something as serious as through the skin compound fractures. These athletes, after their injury, have the same things on their mind. How can I get back in the game and compete at the same level that I used to? How can I achieve these same levels of opportunities I lost after my injury? How can I get over my fear of secondary injury? To delve into this, we will look at one athlete interviewed for this documentary. His name is Cade Wilkins. He's now a college athlete, but in his football season during his senior year of high school, he tore his ACL, PCL, LCL, and femoral artery, putting his whole future career at dire risk.
So my name is Cade Wilkins, and yeah, I hurt my knee my junior year of high school in our first football game. I was running the ball, and my leg kind of got pinned in a really awkward situation, and I dislocated my knee. I tore my ACL, my PCL, my LCL, and my femoral artery. So I had a lot of blood clots forming in my leg and almost lost my leg.
And once you got to the hospital, the shock kind of wore off. What were some thoughts going through your mind then?
Well, I thought I was going to be okay because at first they told me, because we were down in Grants Pass, which is about 5 hours away, and they told me that I was going to be able to go home that night. And as we were leaving, I remember I was in my wheelchair and I was leaving to go, to get in our car and drive home. And they called me back in because one of the doctors just decided to get a second look, because they took a picture of my knee when I first got to the, I can't remember what it's called, but they took some picture of my knee to make sure that I did tear an artery. And the picture at first said that I didn't. So they said, okay, you can go home. But as I was going out, they decided to get a second look, and they said, no, he needs to stay here because he has a torn artery. So they called me back in as I was leaving, as I was just being wheeled out the door, and they said, you tore your artery, you need to stay here. And then that's kind of when it hit me that, okay, this is pretty serious, and that this is a lot worse than what they thought it was going to be.
My next question is, what are some big challenges that you faced during the recovery process?
I would say, at the very beginning of it, when I first started my physical therapy, because it started off really slow, I wasn't able to walk for 2 months. I wasn't able to really do anything like that. My whole physical therapy for probably a month and a half was just trying to be able to bend my leg again, and just doing that constantly over and over again without seeing much progress for a while, and still having to be in a wheelchair and not be able to move around or do things on my own. And just kind of that repetitive process was really hard because I wasn't seeing much improvement at the beginning. And I just kind of started to think if I'll ever be able to come back again. So the very beginning of it, the first 2 months was really hard just because it just felt like there wasn't really anything that was improving.
Yeah, that's tough. How did you get through that? What motivated you to get through that?
I remember the doctor, after my first surgery, I went and saw a doctor, the one who performed my second surgery to fix all the ligaments, told me that I would never be able to play sports again, and that they just said, your goal should be able to walk normal by the end of your senior year. And I don't know, that kind of pissed me off a little bit just because I wanted to play, and just kind of constantly playing that memory back and that voice in my head just kind of made me want to show everyone that I could come back from it. So that's what really pushed me forward to be able to work hard and come back. It's something that you don't think is fair. The same thing can happen in life, and just kind of how you got to be able to, it might suck, but you can't just pout and let it beat you. You got to be able to fight back and just do whatever you can so you can kind of conquer what you want to do.
Any of those super well?
I'm trying to think, because I remember when I came back and I played baseball that junior year. That wasn't much of a challenge for me, just because I was only like DHing. Like there wasn't really like any danger I knew about my knees, so that part wasn't bad. I remember my first football game though. At the beginning, just during practice, when we first started practice, I was kind of nervous just standing in the pocket trying to throw, just kind of being a little like timid about someone rolling up on me and kind of tearing it again. But the more I did that and the more I started doing that, I kind of got over that. But during my game, our first game, I was never really that nervous, just because, I obviously was a little bit, just because, I didn't want to put in all that work and then come out and have the same thing happen again, but just totally, and like all the work goes to nothing. But, I just kind of thought to myself that, there was a lot of work that was put into this, not even just by me, but by my doctors, by like the trainers and my parents and family and friends, that, I couldn't, there was just too much that went in for me to come out and kind of play scared.
Right.
So kind of having that mindset, I was kind of able to put some of the stuff behind me a little bit and just go out and play.
Is there anything else that you can think of that helped you forget, not necessarily forget, but be able to not think about the injury while you were playing again afterwards?
I would just kind of say a little bit had to do with my faith. Just kind of like my faith in God and everything, that, well, if I ended up getting hurt again, then that was part of the plan. And if he didn't want me to get hurt, then I wasn't going to get hurt.
Clearly, a lot of emotion goes into play with these athletes like Cade, who dedicate a huge part of their lives to the sports that they play, and when injuries get in the way, it takes a toll. There are common themes among these athletes on why they come back and how they come back, which we will examine in our presentation covering the rest of the interviews.